Mental health professionals. What small things do parents do that gives their kids mental health issues later in life? Choosing when to give love to your child or making them earn it. Coming in and out of their lives on a whim. Constantly bringing up body image issues, especially theirs, but then buy them junk food. Oh shit. My parents have done the last one. They constantly say that I need to be healthier but then constantly buy junk food and pretty much enable these habits. I do wish I had the willpower to change though. Admit your own mistakes. My parents have never once in my life told me I'm sorry I did that, and my god is every single conversation we have a f-king battle because they just refuse. 2. Apologize. Seriously. Teach your kids some humility. This. My parents had the mentality of I'm your parent so I'm always right. Double quote. The biggest one I see is parents who refuse to take accountability for their mistakes. Honestly. It's not a huge deal if a parent fucks up, no one's perfect. It becomes a big deal when they refuse to admit they did something wrong and then blame their kid as a way of covering up their mistakes. So many things. But the biggest one that I see is not praising their kid enough. If I want my parents to take anything away from my teachings, it is that praise goes a long way. Who doesn't like being told they are good and that they did a good job? Praise for being. You are such an awesome kid. I love you so much. And praise for doing. Thank you so much for doing your chores. It is such a big help and I appreciate it so much. Praise is a life changer, builds self-esteem, self-confidence, pride in oneself and one's work. Lack of praise can make the opposite. Too many times parents feel like chores should be expected. And to an extent yes. But still telling them you appreciate it makes them want to keep doing it and motivates them. Listen and don't underestimate their concerns. This. Do not try to downplay their problems by saying that they aren't a big deal. For example, if a child comes to a parent and says that they are worried about something only to be told that their problem isn't even that serious. It all comes down to age. What a 5-year-old thinks is stressful has the same feeling as to what a 40-year-old thinks is stressful. The only difference is the perspective. My parents used to confide in me about things that were far above my emotional capacity at my age. And to them it may have seemed small. But it made me feel like I needed to take care of them and solve their issues when I was small. They also seemed to pride themselves on never fighting in front of us. But because of that small thing we never learned how to peacefully resolve conflict without disagreeing with someone isn't something to be afraid of. Blame their insecurities on their child. Project things they never got to do onto their child. Put their relationship strains onto their child. Make the child their counselor when they in fact need a professional that can give them some slaps of reality. Refusing to acknowledge the child as their own person and not the parent's property or item that says something about the parent, if that makes sense. Worked in an acute psychiatric hospital for 4 years plus. Constantly praise them for things they haven't done. Search it up. It's called the golden child syndrome. People fall into the trap of praising kids on things they have little control over too. I think it fosters that self-entitlement. I don't think it's helpful to always hear that you're pretty, smart and talented. It is helpful to hear that you've worked really hard on that assignment. That you've practiced a lot and developed skills in your talent. That the clothes you picked today look really nice. I'm not a mental health professional. But I worked in a level 3 lockdown facility for kids to rehabilitate for a few months. The amount of kids shipped off in the middle of the night simply because their parents didn't want to deal with it was unreal. And then you find out this is what the parents did with everything. Anytime the kids had any kind of problem, no matter how small, the parents would avoid dealing with and wonder how their 15-year-old got hooked on meth. If your kid has a problem, f-king talk to them. Let them vent. Let them be sad, or upset or confused. Ask your kids how they are doing and actually mean it. Open up those lines of communication because I saw too many kids say, "It's not like anyone cares what I do anyway," and it's so sad to hear. School psychologist here. Not setting good boundaries or defining parent-child roles. There are a lot of parents who unintentionally reverse roles, like confiding to their child about their adult problems or seeking too much comfort from their child. It can create a sense of responsibility within the child to take care of their parent and can lead to codependency and lack of boundaries in other relationships. Also, for the love of God, don't hit your kids, including spanking. At best it doesn't hurt them. It is not supported in any research that it benefits your child. At worst it leads to a whole host of difficulties, including violence approval. Don't expect your kid to kiss the ground you walk on and see you as a god for providing food, clothes, and a roof. That's literally the bare minimum required by law. Don't drill into their heads they owe you gratitude for giving them life. They didn't have a choice in that matter. Don't treat them like a burden. Again, it was your choice to have a child. Shouldn't have become a parent if you couldn't handle the responsibility. Don't make your love conditional, only to be given when you deign it so. Not only is that cruel, but it sets them up for failure in future relationships. Clearly I could go on, but these would probably be my tops. Teacher. So not a mental health professional. Just in contact with many mentally ill kids. They either exasperate their kids or ignore them completely. My mom does both still, and I'm 21. School was hell and none of the teachers never noticed because I was a straighter kid. She goes through constantly berating me for something I didn't do right. And then completely ignores me. The only reason I did good in school was because I just wanted praise. Positive attention. From anyone. A lot of teachers love to focus on the gifted kids, but some of us are just as messed up as the troublesome ones, tbh. She doesn't care unless she has something judgmental to say to me, and I know I'm going to struggle with this for the next few years. The worst thing a parent can do is throw a child out of their life for a minor act of rebellion. I would know. My mother threw me out for saying no. My dad left my life. 3x did this to my siblings. 2. It was done, and is done, in his family left and right. My sis does it now. I don't want to be your father anymore. Oof. Will never forget that and cannot trust him, or anyone, fully. If your parent continuously plays games with parental commitment, you cannot expect the child to really know, value, and believe in commitment. Telling little girls that are being bullied by boys. It means they like you, so be sweet and quiet and you might get a boyfriend. Double quote. God. I hate things like that. There's an ad based around what you said, and eventually the girl and bully got together and he was abusive. So abusive. My wife is a mental health professional. And she just said everything. Double quote. Also, the majority of mental health issues in kids are because of their parents. Double quote. TBH, I asked this question to see what I should know in case I decide to become a parent one day. This isn't very comforting. Credentials. I am a therapist specializing in treating traumatized children. I also see children who aren't traumatized and adults. Answer. Characterizing behavior as bratty, manipulative, or attention seeking. Especially out loud where your kids can hear you. Kids want one single goddamn thing on this earth. And that's to please their caregivers. If they knew how to do it reliably with good behavior, they would. If there are a lot of problem behaviors, there's a lot of problem parenting. This one really hits home. I've been trained to think everything I do is to get attention, and it stunted my growth very badly. 28 years in, I got an autism diagnosis. Not only was it not just in my head, I absolutely wasn't acting out for attention. It's just that no adult in my environment ever assumed any different. And even if I were doing it all for attention, I can only hope a reasonable parent would assume there's a reason for that and seek to amend it. Overreacting. No matter what your kid tells you, keep it cool. Otherwise they will be way less likely to come to you with problems. This works amazingly well. My parents hit the roof for every little thing. I've always strived to not freak out or make them feel bad when things break or spill. Now my 8 and 11-year-old boys run straight to me when something breaks or goes wrong. They know I'll help and that they won't be screamed at. It's awesome to be summoned to a paint spill or a broken glass immediately instead of having them try to cover it up or make a bigger mess trying to clean it up all by themselves. And it feels so good to know they trust me and feel safe with me. I am a licensed play therapist. It's so simple. But just acknowledging your child's feelings. I can see you're feeling sad. You're angry at me right now. You're scared. It helps children so much with mental health in the future. Because they grow into adults who understand and can express their emotions. It gives children a foundation of empathy and understanding from which to build healthy relationships with other people in the future. It's critical and only takes a minute. Not a mental health professional. But not listening or responding when your kid speaks to you or telling them too often to be quiet. I was so shy and now I realize it was because my parents didn't listen to me when I spoke. And they made me feel like my words didn't have value and like no one wanted to hear anything I had to say. It took me into adulthood to realize that my thoughts are just as valuable as anyone else's and that some people actually do want to interact with me. When I have a kid, I will stop whatever I am doing to listen to them no matter what they're saying. And make sure they know that I value what they say. Not a mental health professional. Just someone who has parents. Never apologizing. Never showing that you care about what your child cares about. Making your child feel embarrassed for doing something. Never letting your child have any secrets. Never letting your child have any privacy. Demanding ultimate respect without showing respect back to the child. Getting mad at a child for being curious and asking why. Not allowing your child to have certain friends because they are a different color or religion or anything else than you. Really. It all boils down to is just not realizing you need to treat your child with the same respect you treat other people. Because that child is a person. 2. You can care about your child. Teach them. Be a good parent. And still have empathy for their humanity. Just be a good person to your child. Please. My mom used to constantly say you don't have the right to be upset about X. Every time I brought up a legit problem, my family had plenty. She told me how spoiled I was. How unfair I was being. How I had no idea what I was talking about. And how I just wanted everything to be done my way. I bet she barely remembers these things. Because these were just knee-jerk, defensive reactions to being called out by a kid. Regardless. It f***ed me up. Not only have I struggled with internalizing the idea that I don't have the right to communicate my feelings and boundaries. But I also really struggle with accepting when someone else is mad at me. And repeat some of the shit she pulled. Lying about your financial situation to your kids. My parents always told me we had no money so I should never ask for anything. And BC I was the oldest daughter, I should help them rein in expenses at f***ing 6 yo. Then they would, and still do, buy my brother anything his heart desires. I understood we actually had money. Just not for me. Now they get offended if I refuse their help and I'm scared shitless of spending on anything. Never taking responsibility for your own mistakes. Parents that cannot ever be wrong raise children that will avoid responsibility at all turns. Meaning they will always struggle to have healthy relationships because their actions never inspire trust. And the worst thing is that when you're raised around people like that, you inevitably are drawn to the same shitty types as an adult. Demanding their child to drop everything they're doing in order to help them do something instead of asking. Teaching children to drop everything to help teaches that their voice, boundaries and time isn't valued. A child may say, "In a minute, I'm doing this or that." An appropriate response would be, "Okay. Do you want me to remind you in a few minutes?" Allowing your child the space and time to accommodate you and your task teaches them that their space, boundaries and voice are valid. Though I think it's pretty common for the first scenario to occur, which I find unhealthy. Acting as if anything sexual is taboo. Obviously there is being too open. But normal things that happen throughout puberty in both girls and boys shouldn't be a no-go subject. My wife walked in on our son with his covers bouncing up and down. He is almost 12. She just turned around and closed the door. I talked to him later because he was pretty embarrassed lol. I just told him not to worry about it. Don't be leaving any mess anywhere, and if you are doing that, lock your door so no one walks in on you again. I said what you were doing is normal. Nothing to be embarrassed about. 1. Being inconsistent. Punished for something one time and the same behavior ignored another time. 2. Pay more attention to something else than the child. Phone, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. 3. Overreacting to small things. Underreact to big things. One thing to do, be present and be loving. Discipline is a form of love. Punishment is not. Telling them that they made them mad and withholding love. Especially when it was an accident. Example. This morning, I was laying on the couch and my 1.5-year-old son was climbing all over me because he is a kid. He banged his head into my mouth and I got a bloody lip from my own teeth. Some parents would yell, ouch. Look what you did. Go to your room. And walk away to take care of themselves. Instead, say ouch. Mom got a boo-boo because you weren't being very gentle. Can you kiss it better? Want to come help me clean it up? Now let's play a quiet activity for a few minutes. Double quote. MHP here, dismissing kids' emotions. Stop it. Parents need to talk to their kids about their emotion. Give them the language and ability to understand what they're feeling. Many people tend to think small children have small emotions. They don't. And they don't have them to annoy you either. Many bad or unacceptable behaviors are driven by a kid's emotions. By discussing, acknowledging and validating a kid's emotions, many of those behavior will stop. Therapist here. Making comments like why can't you do that all the time, or was that so hard, instead of praising the action that was done that you'd like to continue. Rather than building up the child and positively reinforcing the behavior you'd like to see. Sometimes parents who are upset or overwhelmed make comments that only serve to break down the child's confidence and prove that anything they do will never be good or enough. Tell their children that they're smart. Sal Khan explained it. Primarily, they live vicariously through their children. In my 3 years as an MFT, I can't count the number of parents I've worked with who view their children as an extension of themselves. The child's own organic development is obliterated by the parent's need to have the child succeed, be it excelling in sports or academics, or in mimicking the parent's political, religious, financial views. Then the child grows up to have a depressive episode in his/her 20s when he realizes his/her beliefs are not his/her own. I see this weekly. Kids drop out of college, get into substances, or take stupid chances with their lives because they don't know who they truly are. That pain is deep and powerful, and the child has not been shown how to effectively deal with pain. When parents should apologize to their kids, but instead they dismiss, gaslight, minimize, get angry that they get called out. I work with kids, and the fractures that occur in their relationships due to their parents' caregivers need to be right over their child's needs. Speaking as the child. If your kid has serious issues with their physical health, don't let them know about the hospital bill. I learned about it once and am still attempting to deconstruct the resulting burden complex. My parents were pretty awesome, but they probably should have waited a bit longer and or actively engaged me in therapy before I learned about it. Yes. I mean, my parents still had pretty heated fights in front of us. But both of my parents, mainly my mom, would tell me stuff I really didn't need to know. I saw this random therapist on TV once, and she said that parents shouldn't use their kids as a therapist or a friend who they tell their problems to. It was in the context of a divorce, but I just nodded my head. Invalidate their emotions. For example, a child is upset, and a parent tells them to stop crying. It's nothing to be upset about. The child may then learn that they need to escalate their emotional responses to get any sort of recognition, a huge emotional outburst versus words. More so, a persistent pattern of this will lead the child to distrust their own inner self. They may come to over-rely on other people, like friends and romantic partner, to keep them regulated and reassure them, which can lead to unbalanced relationships. It may feel a burden to be on the receiving end, and individuals may be rejecting or the opposite. It could turn into an abusive and controlling situation. Dismiss what matters to them. Sure. To an adult it might seem silly if a kiddo is crying because someone else grabbed their favorite toy at playtime. But to that kiddo it matters. Don't belittle their experience by saying it's not a big deal. Double quote. Occupational therapists still in school here. Mental health is a part of occupational therapy, but something that always grinds my gears is when parents make a child feel broken when he needs therapy or additional support developing. Your child is not broken. He just needs some help like we all do sometimes. I mean, why? Why can't their child just be trying to be better? Why does he or she have to be doing their exercises to be normal or get to the right level? Positive reinforcement, please. My mom in public would grab my back upper arm fat and tell me I'm gaining weight. My grandma is the same way. They still do it today and I'm 30 years old. Little things like that. I was in middle school and 139 pounds. I felt often that she had a resentment problems with her getting older and having girls, but it was things like that gave me a complex about myself. I have 2 girls now and I'm constantly telling them how beautiful they are. I've learned to forgive and just let it go, but if they ever say anything to my girls I'll attack. I need my girls to always know they're beautiful no matter what. I am not a mental health professional, but from personal experience I know that my family's constant teasing of me whenever I interacted with or mentioned a peer of the opposite sex had a huge impact on my romantic life as I grew up. Out of embarrassment, I staunchly avoided any intimacy in HS or uni. Never learned how to flirt or date during the low risk time everyone else was learning. Even today as a fully autonomous adult I still get the intense paranoid fear feeling whenever an opportunity for something like that happens. They had no idea they were being harmful until I figured this out after moving away to college and eventually told them.